You cannot compliment those who say good things about government and begin to arrest those who say bad things about government. For Christ's sake, they are citizens. In fact, Blacker gave us a sign that this is the new Sierra Leone. You should close your mouth. You should not talk.
You are watching AYV Television.
There were several credible reports that the government or its agents committed arbitrary or unlawful killings. In April, the Sierra Leone police shot and killed an unarmed youth in the capital city of Freetown during a student protest. Authorities arrested and dismissed the 4 police officers allegedly involved in the killing, and as of September, they were standing trial. The 2021 State of Human Rights report published by the U.S. in Sierra Leone. Now, Seige is concerned that the Sierra Leone police now seems to be using the vague offense of incitement as an excuse to clamp down on free speech, and we're worried that the SLP is overreacting to dissenting views expressed by citizens. Seige president stated during the Freedom Walk. Opposition politicians are accusing government of putting democracy under siege. Tonight, we discuss Sierra Leone's state of democracy and the path to a peaceful 2023 elections. My name is Samuel Wise-Bangui, and this is AYV on Sunday. All right, welcome to AYV on Sunday here on AYV Television on Channel 33 on Radio FM 101.7. Tonight, I have a star-studded panel to help me unpack the topic for the next 2 hours. I have Honorable Indolo Gevao, representing the Sierra Leone People's Party in Parliament. Honorable, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Samuel. Good evening, viewers.
All right, I have Dr. Alhaji Njai, founder Project 1808. Dr. Njai, good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Right. I have the Honorable Abdul Kabo, representing the All People's Congress Party in Parliament. Honorable, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, AYV. Good evening, listeners and viewers.
All right, we're also expecting Lillian Wilberforce, the Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation of the National Peace Commission, to join the conversation. Let me start off with you. Dr. Njai, I just wanted to call you Honorable. I hope the speaker will not come for me. But Dr. Njai, I mean, looking at Sierra Leone's democracy, we've seen in recent times, the trend has been incitement. People have been arrested, be it politicians, be it mentally deranged, be it the teachers, and so. And it's a trend that is threatening democracy, should I put that. What's your level of understanding with regards where we are and where we are moving to in terms of democracy with the current happenings?
So I think, when we look at democracy in general, a fundamental aspect of democracy is that people power is what is the underpinning thing for democracy, right? And in that aspect, then free speech, free assembly, free protest, diverse views, diverse opinions becomes a fundamental aspect of that democracy. And it's important, if you need to kind of strengthen that democracy, you need to be able to appreciate voices that are in favor of your opinion, voices that are dissenting, and especially in a country like Sierra Leone, of the African democracies, we are very pluralistic, very many, diverse, and even more difficult than sometimes Western democracies because you need to deal with so much more diversity. If I look at a place like Kabbalah, just within 2 miles or 3 miles of walk, you'll encounter 5 different types of ethnicities and with different views and stuff. So I think what is more important is how do we find the balance in our democracy between free speech, which is a fundamental right, but it is also not absolute, and how do we balance that with things like hate speech and speech that is, can be also considered, insightful or attack other groups. That's a big challenge for all democracies, including ours. And I think the difficulty is the thing that is important, and my challenge in some of the things that I've seen in the last few weeks or months in the country that is worrying, is that whenever you want to get to something as being insightful, we have to look at it from a level of proportionality. Is it, because it has to be based on, is it something that is an imminent or causes a security threat to the national interest or something like that. But some of the clamps down I've seen is basically, I ask myself, how is a mentally deranged person, for instance, the one you mentioned, will say stuff and that leads to a national security issue. So, but you have to be able, it's all by case basis, because, sometimes like we've seen in Rwanda, what sparked it was just people going on radio. And when that group is very influential and you use something which is still around the same free speech, but it's inciting groups, then that really leads to something else that creates a major disaster or major issue in the country. So we have to look at, there is a very difficult balance and one that needs to be navigated properly in our country, because in a country like Sierra Leone, right now we are in a balance. It's a very difficult balance at the moment. The country is definitely divided and polarized, and we've had a long history of challenges with the democracy in the country, but we've been making progress. And there are definitely glimpses of progress in terms of even overturning the press, the law against press,
right.
that was overturned. So there are some progress, but we have to be very cautious of this new trend of excessive policing, excessive really silencing of progressive voices, because criticism, dissenting views by citizens is the fundamental pinnacle of democracy. We need that.
With all of these things you've highlighted, and the police is said to be an independent force, or should be an independent body operationally, because already we know outside, its operational functions, it is not independent. Going back to the Police Council Act, for example. But they've always maintained when it comes to their operations, they are independent, they have operational independence. But from what is happening, do you see that operational independence at play, or is it just saying, wait a minute, we're just going by our paymasters? This has been the practice over time, not just now. It has been the practice over time.
And exactly. So, one of the things that worries me in our democracy is really the use of the police force by the executive arm each time. Throughout our history from, back, I would say, 70s that I'm aware of. But, in the last government was the same, use the police force. It's like this, what Fela Kuti in Nigeria calls zombie. They say, go, you go, stop, you stop, tinap, you tinap. That's sort of his song, Zombie. Yeah. Because it is, you have to think of democracy. When we talk about democracy, it is people's power. You as a police person, you're serving the citizens. You're serving the people. So basically, it's very important, because that's really one of the fundamental things we miss out in this country. When I elect somebody, I'm not electing you. You are not my boss.
Right.
The people are your boss. That's the fundamental thing. And you have to be able to then listen to all these consenting voices. So that's why, when police just rushes in and clamps down, and then, oh, this person has done this, and this, and even aspect of like very civil protest to even march. Yeah. People no longer can have that ability in a country like Sierra Leone to do a civil protest against, very peaceful protest. These are all aspects that what it does is it creates, if you do that, you create a situation where you are boxing up all the anger in people. Because if you are not allowing people to do peaceful protests, for people to have that free speech, then what happens is that you create almost you create a disservice, because it becomes almost a time bomb, because you are creating, people are internalizing all
boxing
this, boxing up. And then one day they just explode. And you're like, what? What happened? How did this happen? But that's what happens. You need to allow, in a perfectly healthy democratic system, that's actually a benchmark that country is doing well, is when it is allowing peaceful protest, it's allowing free speech, it's allowing freedom of thought, freedom of conscience, because that freedom of thought is linked to freedom of speech. Because I, as a university person, I need to be able to speak in my classroom, I need to be able to write articles, and need to be able to creatively think without thinking that this could be censored or or basically I could run into trouble. And then it runs into all the other aspects. Free and fair elections.
Right.
How do you get free and fair elections if people are afraid of, if your incumbents are afraid of speaking, or if people are not afraid of assembling? How do you create even aspect of freedom, religious freedom? So everything from freedom of, when you stifle freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom, you then begin to attack the core values of democracy.
So, and that is like closing the democratic space.
You do, and that doesn't augur well, and it doesn't work well for the society, because when you begin to close that, it begins to alienate people. So I begin to say, my country that I am a citizen of, doesn't value me, doesn't value my voice, doesn't value my opinion, and I feel less empowered. And we now see then, okay, well, the next thing could be, these are the people who end up saying, what? The democracy is not working for me anymore.
Right.
If democracy doesn't work for me anymore, we see now what is happening in countries like Nigeria, Boko Haram. You see closing in on us, Mali, Burkina Faso, all these countries.
Right.
So you see that people then say, you know what, the democracy doesn't listen, addresses my concern. If I say I'm stifled, then I will end up doing something else.
All right, let me bring in Honorable Abdul Kabo. Honorable Abdul Kabo, you've listened to the submission of Dr. Njai with regards democracy. One of yours, one of your presidential hopeful, Alhaji Kemal Sise, was arrested, and because of his utterances, many have condemned his utterances against the presidency. But he was arrested, but many are saying, we live in a democratic space. Freedom of expression is guaranteed by the 1991 Constitution. But like Dr. Njai just submitted, it is not absolute. I mean, there are limits to you enjoying those constitutional rights. But first off, with the recent trend of arbitrary arrest on the grounds of incitement, what do you make of that?
Well, interestingly, this government has happily received commendations from the international community, from journalists, from civil society organizations, for the repeal of Part 5 of the Public Order Act.
Right.
And when the Part 5 was repealed, everybody thought there was going to be sanity, and everybody would have his or her own right as citizens to speak up on issues, especially issues affecting their existence as Sierra Leoneans, But interestingly, seditious libel looks at critical issues, yeah? Like, for example, when once you are in a meeting, or you make a statement by speech, or you you publish, anything that will bring some amount of insecurity to the state, that is seditious libel, or you bring hatred, or that will bring hatred or contempt or incite or disaffection against the government or public official, is seditious libel. So when that was removed, everybody was of the opinion that we are living now in a standard democratic society when, citizens will have the free hand to express their opinions, without being arrested, without being intimidated, without being infuriated, without being molested, and everybody thought that was the Sierra Leone we were going to have, but Samuel, if you go through what we passed in Parliament, though we were against it, section 5, subsection 2B of the Cybercrime Act, it also criminalizes what you say against public official. Let me just read it. It says a person, including corporation, partnership, or association, who knowingly or intentionally sends a message or other matters by means of computer or by network. 2, he knows to be false for the purpose of causing annoyance, grievances, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, enmity, hatred, ill will, or needless anxiety to others, or cause such a message to be sent out, commits an offense and is liable upon conviction to such fine or term of imprisonment. You see, so meaning even for insulting somebody, you could be in prison according to the Cybercrime Act. You see, even for annoying somebody, I don't know what annoys you. I don't know what annoys you. Maybe bringing you gifts, gifts with blue color will annoy you. I don't know. Who defines what annoys somebody? When you call somebody annoyance, you'll be in prison. It criminalizes it. You see, so to me, the Cybercrime Act is more draconian than the Public Order Act that was repealed. You understand? Why should you imprison somebody for insulting somebody? Why should that be criminalized?
If the insult causes, someone, losing even his or her state of mind, for example.
So you mean, that is why we are saying there is still no free speech. That is why we are saying there is still no free speech. So because in free speech, you allow people to talk.
Everything?
You allow people to talk. Like I always said, there should be safeguard.
Right.
But for the reasons for which so many opposition members have been arrested, does not even surmount to insight.
Well,
does not surmount to insight.
Let's take Kemosisi, for example, as a case study here. His utterances, I will not want to repeat them obviously here, but I'm sure you must have seen the video, you must have heard the things he said in that video, against the president. Even as, just you as an ordinary citizen, someone, makes those statements against you, it feels like, you're not human at the end of the day. Everything has been taken away from you.
That matter is before the court,
right.
And I would not want to comment on it. But if I could make general statement on the issue. Right. Samuel, the day I decided to go into politics, that was the day I exposed myself to public opinion. That was the day I allowed public to scrutinize me. In my constituency, not everybody will like me. Not everybody will like me. And I will not clap for those who commend me and begin to intimidate those who say bad things about me. Once you are a president or you are any government official, expect people who did not vote for you not to commend you. Expect that. Expect some of them to use statements against you. But what is the beauty of democracy is for you to live with them. It's for you to extend some olive branch to them. You see, but beginning to arrest whosoever says anything bad about government, then you will arrest a good chunk of your citizens, because you cannot compliment those who say good things about government and begin to arrest those who say bad things about government. For Christ's sake, they are citizens. They are citizens, and Kemosi say incidents is just one. There are people. Look at Blacker. What would Blacker say that would even influence the decision of Sierra Leoneans? But he was arrested and in prison. He was arrested. In fact, you know, Blacker gave us a sign that this is the new Sierra Leone. You should close your mouth. You should not talk. And in a democratic situation like ours, especially on instances when the president has been commended for the repeal of the seditious libel, we expect every Sierra Leonean to at least have the ambience to express their opinion. On AYV TV here, the teachers came here and they expressed their dissatisfaction on their salary, an issue that is affecting their daily existence as Sierra Leoneans. They were arrested. So meaning when you are not happy with your salary, you shouldn't talk? This is the Sierra Leone we live. And for us, it is not good for the reputation of our country. It is not good. And let me tell you.
Is it that because we have so many advocates? Is it that because we have, the provision of free speech and the press? Freedom of assembly, for example, in our 1991 constitution. People should just feel like in exercising their rights, they should just go and do so in a way that threatens the peace, that perhaps, do things that have the proclivity of rebellion, even, should I say.
Let me just ask you a few questions. Yeah?
Unfortunately, I'm a chair.
Yeah, for sure. They are rhetoric questions. They are rhetoric questions. They may not need answer. Yeah? What did Blacker say that supposedly will bring chaos to our country? What did the teachers, disgruntled teachers, say that will bring chaos to our country? What did Sylvia Blyden, who was arrested in prison and they even searched her private part, what did she say that surmounted to that? What did Sidi Yaya Tuni say on Radio Democracy? What did he say that initiated his arrest? What did Honorable Kalon say? Honorable Kalon, a former member of parliament, what did he say that I was arrested? What did myself say that I was arrested? What did Honorable Lahai Mara say that he was arrested? So when you talk, just don't look at one. Look at a good number of those who have been arrested without any good reason, just because they are opposition members. And you have to live with it. And let me tell you,
they are opposition.
Yes, I will tell you that.
Simply because you have a force that is said to be independent, a force that is not being influenced by the executive. They are just doing their job. So when you say about opposition, just attacking opposition politicians, does that in any way mean that the force is really being influenced, being pushed to do all of these?
I will tell you, say yes, because we've had lots of audios from SLPP members. You understand? Some are threats against opposition members, some are insightful, some are worse off, but none of them has ever been invited by the police. So the police are saying, once you are in SLPP, you are free to say anything. Even if you say you will kill all the opposition, it's your right. You are free. But when the opposition says it, they will face prison. They will face pardon by road. And let me tell you, on several occasions, the president has said he is traveling to cleanse the image of our country, to make our country look good internationally.
Right.
Yeah? We are in a global village. What happens in Sierra Leone goes into the records of every other country without him traveling. Yeah? Now look at the report from the United States Department of State. Yeah? Our human rights report of 2021. Paragraph 3, it says, significant human rights issues include credible reports of unlawful and arbitrary killings by government. So the United States is telling us that our government is engaged in unlawful and arbitrary killings of its citizens. It said cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment or punishment by government or on behalf of government, harsh and life-threatening prison condition, arbitrary arrest or detention. This is what the American government is saying about our government. No Sierra Leonean would love his country to be placed in such a category. And at the time this report is being published, because this is for 2021, at the time this report is being published, there are opposition members who are still being incarcerated, which is greatly alluding to the fact that this report is truthful, you see. So government should be very careful about our international record as a nation. As a nation, we should look good in the eyes of our international partners, you see. So if the international partner, the EU report on Sierra Leone wasn't too good, this United States Department of State report on human rights 2021 is appalling. No single citizen will want his or a government to be classed in such a category. So this is a wake-up call to government. We are all Sierra Leoneans.
And you're part of the government.
Of course, it's a wake-up call to government. We are all Sierra Leonean. You don't have to arrest Mr. B because he opposes government. You don't have to arrest Mr. A because he condemns government. In fact, opposition is part of government. Any government that cannot pull with opposition is not a government.
Are these some of the challenges that come with, having a fledgling democracy like ours?
Ours is not too fledged. It's not a fledgling democracy. Ours is what the leadership believes. You see, when former President Kaba was in office, he said, let them talk, whilst they're not going to bush. When President Nkrumah was in office, there were no political prisoners. You cannot arrest people because of their opinion on your government. You cannot arrest them. You make this. Let me tell you, quite apart from those who have been arrested, I have named just few, there are a good number of them that are outside the country. They are outside the country just because of the opinion that if they were in Sierra Leone, they would be arrested. Cornelius Devoe, who was the substantive spokesperson for the opposition, is outside the country because he fled, and arrested by the police. DJ Box is outside the country. A good number of them cannot enter this country because of the kind of government we have and because of the kind of democracy we have. For Christ's sake, if they oppose you, shake the foot off your dust and carry on. You are in charge. You are the boss. You cannot just be expecting people to commend government. There are people who should oppose government, but opposing government should not mean you should spend the night in the prison.
Honorable Indolo Gevao, let me bring you in. From the submission of Honorable Abdul Kabo, it appears that what democracy creates room for example, having that space for dissenting views, the democracy we practice in Sierra Leone is not encouraging that. If it's either you are for us, with us, if you are against us, I'm afraid there's a separate environment you belong, and that is where we would keep you. Literally, that's what I make from his submission, because the government feels that everything good must be said and anything bad must not be said. So when you do that, then you become an enemy.
Thank you so much. That's actually not the case. And I hope I'll have sufficient time.
You will. Go ahead.
You see, when they elect us to parliament, it's because our people take governance very serious. And if they send us to parliament and we tend not to do our job, that leads to us coming on public media to criticize that very thing that we, the parliamentarian, worked on, approved, and passed. This cyber law that my brother is talking about, unless if he tells me, which is most often the case, and I will invite Sierra Leoneans to actually follow parliament anytime we are passing bills, the opposition bench is most often empty. They don't follow. They don't seek the interest of the very people that support, that voted them in. Because no. Let me land.
But that is a big
you
should withdraw that statement.
No, I am not. This bill that is criticizing,
we attend parliament more than you.
This bill that is criticizing was a bill that was laid before parliament. It went through all the stages First reading, second reading, committee stage. We debated it. Where was he? Go to the Hansas. I will invite us Sierra Leoneans to go to the Hansas. The Hansas are records it's a system that keeps records of every debate, every event in Parliament. If my brother here had challenged that particular clause to say it was draconian, he will be, on record that he did challenge it. He said they opposed it. No, they did not oppose it. I was in Parliament. He participated in the debate. His brothers, his colleagues, other members of Parliament on the opposition side contributed in the debate, and we all passed this bill.
Unanimously.
Unless my brother now tells us that Parliament, which is the legislative arm of government, should not be doing their job. If we pass laws and we come again on public medium to say the law is draconian, it's much more draconian than part 5 of the Public Order Act. When you yourself, you were part and parcel of that very Parliament that passed this bill, it's unfortunate, sir. It's really, really unfortunate. So that is the issue with laws. This government is not doing anything outside the ambit of the law. The law that is being used by the police, the laws under which these people are being charged, are laws that are being passed by Parliament, the legislative arm of government. And the legislative arm of government is that body of our democracy that represents the general populace, sir. We are not practicing a direct democracy. We are practicing indirect democracy. We are in people elect us for us to go and represent them. So if we don't represent them well, and we come to Parliament on television to say we are sorry, but we have passed a law that is quite draconian, why didn't you correct it then as a sitting member of Parliament?
So do you agree?
I don't agree. No. I believe the law is a good law.
Okay.
It's a very good law, and Sierra Leoneans agreed upon it, and that was why it was passed.
Okay. So he also mentioned names of people who he thinks have been arbitrarily arrested and detained, especially people on the opposition side.
You see,
there were also women involved.
One thing we have to stop in Sierra Leone is condoning immorality.
In what sense?
Immorality, abusive language, abusing people in high places is now becoming part and parcel of our lifestyle. People now put gramophone speakers outside to listen to Sierra Leoneans using obscene language against other Sierra Leoneans, and they clap, they adore it. Why? This is not how Sierra Leone used to be. Why are we condoning this? It happens. Go to Waterloo. There's a certain Sierra Leonean, anytime he releases an audio, people put megaphones outside Waterloo to listen. They dance into it. They dance to the tune. My brother here is a very decent Sierra Leonean. I will not allow anybody to bring his self-esteem down. We all listen to the audio of Alhaji Kamosise. We all should condemn it, whether it's before the court or it's not before the court. We should condemn it, because President Bio is leader of Sierra Leone, does not give anybody the license to abuse him, to call him names that you know deep down your own heart is not correct. Is it an offense to be a leader? Is it an offense to actually say, I am going to be a member of Parliament? I will ask him a question. What did Tomosha Bomaya do for her to be arrested? What did Charles Magai do for him to be arrested? What did Lehman do for him to be arrested? I will call names. When we
it's like tit for tat.
No, it's not tit for tat.
Okay.
I will say the administration then, they did this using the laws. They did not go arresting anybody to say there is no law. That's why you did not see us coming here to cry over water that was spilled on Doc's back. Lehman was invited to the police. We accompanied him because we believe in the democratic processes. He was investigated and charged. I was part of his defense team. We defended him to a point that they granted him bail and they abandoned the case. Tomosha Bomaya, she was investigated. Yes, she was investigated, charged. We defended her and they abandoned it. Charles Magai was invited to the CID. They investigated him and they abandoned it. We did not say there was no law. We didn't say so. What the police are doing, they are merely using laws passed by parliament. They are not taking anything from the space. The law he's referring to, these are laws that he himself, participated in the process of making it an act of parliament.
So in essence, it is parliament that armed the Sierra Leone police.
It's parliament. Parliament, as far as I'm concerned, they bring bills to us. We have the right to reject it, to say this bill that you've brought is a mere proposal. We are going to just take the subject matter and create a whole law on our own. We look at the law, we vet it. All those who did government in secondary school, they say committee stage, we go through the bill word by word, sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, just to make sure that we make laws to fit the Sierra Leonean populace. So if we have gone to make such a law, and now people are violating that law, and we are saying no, because they are using that law to they are abusing the president. No, he's not a human being. We should let them go scot-free because he's the president. Those that are abusing him should be above the law. Yes, there is a law to bring them to book, but you should not bring them to book because he's the leader of Sierra Leone. He is not a human being. He is not covered by the constitution. He is not covered by parliament. The laws that we make should not cover him. And, for example, let him tell me one political prisoner. Sir, to send somebody on remand, he's not a prisoner, sir. When you are going through your trial, if you are refused bail, the magistrate looks at circumstances for him to either admit you or refuse you bail until you are convicted. That is what, and sentenced. That is when people are called prisoners. Show me one Sierra Leonean that is in prison as a result of him being clamped down for free speech or the like. Like my brother here said, my right stops at where yours starts. That is where my own right stops. I will not just jump into the street to say, oh, Samuel, you see, is this, is that, is that. No. I don't have that free liberty. It's not absolute.
There are complaints. For example, when some of these high-profile cases, when they happen, many Sierra Leoneans or those who follow the political trend in this country would tell you these individuals dare not go to the police to make a report, to make a complaint about the situation, but the police acts swiftly on some of these things. And there are also instances where in those people refer to as not too low profile personalities in society, when some of these things happen, they would go to the police, they would make reports, but nothing would come out of it. So again, is it about politics, or is it about looking at, listen, we run this town, give us our rights, give us our space, let us run what we want to, the race we want to run, let us put it bare and practice the democracy we feel is good for all of you guys, and you guys should just support.
Samuel, for those who are Muslims and Christians will tell you that even God said respect authority. It is God that bestows power on human beings. Right. God says, don't disrespect those that are leaders. An abuse on the president is an abuse on you and I. If you don't respect your president, who else will you respect? If you don't respect your member of parliament, like Honorable Abdul Kabo is not respected in his constituency, somebody just jump onto him in his constituency and start raining abusive language words on his person, who else would that person respect? We are leaders. We are not leaders because of ourselves. We are leaders because God has destined it that between this period and this period, Honorable Geva is going to be a member of parliament representing 20 or 30,000 people. You have to respect that one. Let us respect our leaders. And if a leader is abused, and everybody looks at it and condemns it, and a citizen says, hello, no, you should just shake your foot to say no, the leader's mother should be abused. The leader's person must be abused. His estimation, what he has worked for, his integrity must be destroyed, and nothing should be done. I think as a nation we should not settle for that. That's why we make them leaders. That the investigation must be swift, because the very nation he leads is a very serious nation. So it's not because he runs this show, he runs this town. It's not because of that. It's just because he is the custodial. He is the let's say the father of the ground norm. So if you abuse him, you are abusing the very country that you call your own, and we should condemn it with the last nerves in in us.
Dr. Njai, Honorable Gevao just made something very salient. I mean, the fact that we keep talking about democracy, it appears when we want to enjoy, I mean, the fundamental principles of democracy, we kill morals, we kill integrity in the space. So what we practice now, oh, it is our rights. Let me say this, I have the right to say this and all of that, but we forget about morals. And that is, where do we situate morals in democracy?
And this is one thing we've lost in Sierra Leone, because again, I mean, maybe when I was, for a few years when I was a child, we did civics, and this was taken out of our things, of our curriculums. And then, you know, when we've had, you know, maybe the war and a breakdown in a lot of values, family structures, our education systems have been impacted. So there is the whole aspect of civics and aspect of morality, integrity, and decency, and that whole, democracy is about a civic space. Right. And civic space, when you call civic space, is a shortened form of civilized space, you know, and how you interact with one another. We could be different. We could have different views, different opinions, different take on things, but let's address the issues, right? You know, attacking somebody's personality, whatever it is, should be taken out of the equation. We should move out of this as Sierra Leone in our politics and our political discourse. That should not be something that we need to be, getting on. That to me is very trivial. These are petty issues. To me, what is more important, people have major issues in the country that they are facing every day. And I would like to see politicians, even in parliament, you dragged out of parliament because you reject a certain portion of that cybercrime bill, because you stand against it and you decide to even do a filibuster, sit there, talk, and being dragged out of parliament because of that. But it shouldn't be when we start and we go down to those petty issues and begin to rain insult on each other. And what do we then tell our little kids? What do we tell others who are coming up about the democratic space? About, look at what the adults are doing. They've already failed us for 60 years, and they continue to fail us. And so what we need from, currently we have these two parties here that have essentially held us hostage for 60 years, and they still continue to hold us hostage as Sierra Leoneans. And what we need is for them to begin to take on a more moral high ground, but also look for policies that matter, discuss the issues. And again, if you are a politician, and Honorable Cabo rightly said, it's also important to know that you are in the public space. So some things you are not immune from.
Right.
You are not immune. Like, for instance, the president is not immune to citizens of this country questioning where he travels to, how much he's traveled, who he traveled with. He's not immune. But the president also has a right to travel. That's always my take. He has a right to travel. He has the right to take vacation. He could take vacation. He is a human just like us. He can take vacation, he can travel, he can do all those things. But also, if you are a public official, as long as you've taken that mantle, you need to explain to your people that I'm going to take vacation so and so place, I'm going to travel so, and people need to know what you travel for, who travel in your, all those things are part of being public officials. So some things you have to have a thick skin. So for some things, some level of things. I've seen in America where Obama is addressing State of the Union address, somebody said to him, that's a lie, and that person was not sent to jail. And I've seen where a governor of Arizona standing at the airport with Obama wags his hand on Obama's face. That governor was never sent to prison. So there has to be some level of tolerance. That's what creates the maturity in the system. It elevates the system. you know, we are not kids. We have to be able. We've actually been practicing democracy now for the last, since post-war, right? And we have to show some level of maturity in our discourse, right? And then focus on the fundamental issues today that are affecting Sierra Leoneans, which is food security. That rest, where, you know, it don't go up. Water is not there. Light is not there. People have poverty still reigns in the country. 60 years later, we are still struggling with poverty. I have traveled nearly to every district in this country. I've been in, you know, deep inside Kailaun, Pujehun, you know, all these communities. Kenima, I was just in Gola Forest. And I see the potential of a country, but I see people suffering in this country. But yet I see we arguing over petty issues. And you know, as a nation, to me, what is more important is we have to be able, that's why education is part of this. The civic education is part of this. And education and literacy around government is fundamental. Because it's only when you have a high level of literacy, and when I talk about literacy, literacy not just from going to school and stuff, but really understanding civic responsibilities in government. That's where we can now create the level of elevated discourse in the country, you know, to you know, address some of these issues.
So as you say that, I mean, as a nation, we know we continue to struggle with some monumental governance, I mean, deficits or deficiencies across. But when Honorable Abdul Kabu mentioned that the police are everywhere doing all sort of things, killing the democracy, and Honorable Gevao mentioned that what the Sierra Leone police, I mean, is doing, it's nothing illegal. There are laws, and it is the House that that creates or makes the laws, the House of Parliament. And these two gentlemen, for example, are part of those who are guarding the well where we actually draw the water to nurture our democracy. So, and if the police, for example, is going against the laws, doesn't Parliament have that right? Hey, Mr. Seige, wait a minute, come here. Let's look at what is happening. What you're doing is killing democracy. Our people are not okay. Our people have the right to vent. Our people have the right to speak freely of some of the things they are not happy about. And that is what this space creates. But if you are telling them and showing them that if they do this, they are going to be incarcerated, then it means you're not doing your job. You should be protecting that space. So what is Parliament doing?
You know, I listen to both of them, and honestly, they are all right in some ways. Honorable Gevao is right, Honorable Kabu is right. The fundamental thing is that the laws were created by all of them.
Right.
But then what the bigger issue to Honorable Kabu's part is, and which we see in every government, is the selective enforcement of that law. So when we create laws, but those laws then are selectively enforced to target different people, people who are part, maybe right now at this point, opposition. What we've had a problem with in Sierra Leone, with our democracy, and this has been a problem since independence, is that the executive arm has been so powerful that to the point in which the arms that should regulate all this other part, like the judiciary and the legislation, the legislative arms, those arms have not been, you know, have not come up to par to get to that point of creating the accountability that is necessary. Yes, the IG of police could be summoned by Parliament. That's actually a fundamental thing.
Right.
Even as we are going through all these issues we are facing right now, with even now we are dealing with fake degrees, we're dealing with corruption, we are dealing with so many things. Even president should be summoned, can be summoned to Parliament to answer some things. That is not immune. These are all the things. So but what we have done essentially in a country like Sierra Leone is to make the president the god. And this is what pertains in most African countries. And so when that happens, is that it then weakens all the other instruments, you know. So if it's the judiciary starts shifting. You know, it's like a moving target, moving goalpost. So it becomes, you know, the judiciary, the constitution now begins to shift towards, you know, whoever is in power. Then they can now create, you know, utilize it for that. Then the whole, you know, things are, even the appointment that we see now, what these fake degrees are showing right now is showing the poor vetting that happened through parliament. Because parliament has to vet these people. This is part of the legislative arm. And in fact, instead of setting up things, these are the times, call these people and say, parliament has the right to have, even at this point, the man who is doing the whistle blowing, parliament has a right to say, come and then give us a testimony of these things, because it's powerful.
Right.
This is what mature democracies do. And this is what we have to begin to think about and say, you know what, the president, the executive arm is there, but it needs, these other arms are important to regulate it. And the voices of citizens matter. But with police should know that the law should not be enforced selectively. You know, and when that happens, what happens is that you begin to kind of create the situation we are in. People begin to see the same police force that is meant to protect them. Some groups will see them as an alien force to them, and then they feel alienated. And another group will feel like, okay, we are protected by the same law. And that then, it doesn't work well for the democratic dispensation in the country that we, you know, that we want.
Honorable Abdul Kabu, so whilst we continue to protect, we continue to have conversations around the protection and the projection of democracy, I mean, for development in Sierra Leone, it appears from Honorable Gevao's submission that there are vestiges of immoral conduct in the practice of our democracy. And these are things that some of the opposition people are supporting, they are promoting, because they feel like we live in a democratic society. So whether what we say to a point reduces the value of our leader, demoralize our leader, it's okay, because democracy guarantees freedom of expression. We should be able to say what we feel. I mean, in whatever manner, in whatever way we should say it. Does that not create a platform to say it's a bit too much?
Yes, and before I go to answering your question, let me just go over what Honorable Gevao said. He said opposition members don't attend parliament and they don't participate, you know, they don't represent their people well. You know, that statement is malicious and fallacious. And that statement is geared towards attracting public aid to the opposition MPs. It is on record. Go to the answer. You will see that opposition members attend parliament more than the ruling government MPs. Yeah? Quite apart from that. Honorable Gevao stated that, you know, there are a lot of insults, you know, speakers are played, you know, and people, you know, in everywhere, you know, and you cannot have a leader and somebody insult. I agree with you. I agree with you. Nobody will want their kids to be insulting people. Yeah? But again, that was a tactical means of circumventing what is happening. Let me just ask you this rhetorics. Yeah? Did Sylvia Blyden insult anybody for her to be arrested? Did Sidi Yaya Tunis insult anybody for him to be arrested? Did Ali Komona insult anybody? Who did Honorable Lahai Mara insult? Who did Honorable Kalon insult? Who did myself insult? Who did Karamo Kaba? You see, these are a long list of people who were arrested for not insulting. So let him don't give the picture as if everybody who has been arrested was arrested because they insulted. No. Some were arrested without any reason. He spoke of the Cyber Act, you know, that it was consensual in Parliament. I doubt his participation in the entire process, because he always stated, first reading, second reading, and third reading. That act went beyond that stage. In fact, a committee was set. I was part of the committee that went to Bintu Mani Hotel. We were there for days, and the opposition vehemently said we should expunge Section 35, because Section 35 was replicating what was repealed in the Public Order Act. Criminalizing insult, criminalizing annoyance. Who determines what annoys you? So but what they have done in that parliament is that they have done a state capture of the parliament.
What did they?
Well, they removed 10 MPs, 11 MPs from the...
Who are they?
SLPP. They removed 10 elected MPs whose names were gazetted, they were certified, so that they would always have the majority. And in parliament, what they do...
The judiciary is an independent arm. And when you talk about separation of powers, the judiciary is independent.
What is independent?
So why would you say it's the government?
Read the EU report. Read the EU report. It was not only the SLPP that petitioned APC MPs. APC also petitioned SLPP MPs. Where is the case? What is the independence about that?
So is the judiciary being captured as well?
Of course. Let me tell you what happened. On the day court was to take the decision to evict the 11 MPs, they were already preparing to swear in the runners-up. So it shows there is a coordination between the judiciary and parliament. They had communicated the ruling to them even when it was not made public in courts. They were preparing to swear in the MPs. And some MPs got 15,000, some got 12,000 votes. And they were replaced by only MPs who got 1,000, so that they will win whenever we go for voting, they will win the votes in parliament. That is why they are winning all of the votes in parliament. And in parliament, it votes. When you lose the vote, it's over.
And you think that's where democracy, was
Exactly. And let me tell you, no other president would sit and see the majority in parliament being the opposition. They will also use the court system. That damage our democracy to a large extent. But that is not the subject of discussion for today. I'll keep that for another day. Yeah, let's focus on this free speech. You see, it's really serious when you are in a country that the citizens are leaving the country because of fear of arrest for what they may have said. I have just stated, I have called over 7 to 10 names, which there is no evidence of either using obscenity or using any... Sylvia Blyden, for God's sake, is a woman. She was incarcerated. Somebody had to put the finger on her private part. It was a complete humiliation of the opposition. And it's in the report that opposition members are being humiliated. Look at how Kamosise, who is physically challenged, was carried in court. It is an attempt to humiliate, and you cannot win power by constant humiliation of the opposition. Opposition is part of governance. If you cannot cope up with the opposition, then you cannot run a government. I am against insulting the president. I am against that. You understand? But I have shown you instances of people who have never used insulting languages, but they have been kept behind bars.
So you're saying that's not an excuse for the clampdown?
It is not. It is not. It is not an excuse. It is an attempt to keep the opposition constantly quiet. Yes. And now the honorable member is blaming the opposition for having passed a law in parliament. With your conscience, you know the opposition doesn't have a voice in that parliament. Because of some of the things your government has done to the parliament. So our parliament now is almost useless. Because whatever comes from the executive passes easily in parliament. You vote. When the opposition was in the majority, when we had 68 MPs, they would not allow us to vote. They would not. They would not until after court evicted 11 MPs that they now made voting an habit in parliament. So you cannot unjustifiably castigate the opposition for passing a law in parliament when you know the opposition doesn't have the numeric capacity to do it. It's unfair. It's disingenuous on your part. You see? So to me, I'm always saying it. You know, there should be some amount of interaction between the opposition and the government. Yeah? Because the opposition is awaiting government. The opposition and the government should be seen talking. You know, and let me tell you, the amount of public hate on the people is because they are replicating what is happening at the top. Yeah? If they see on normal occasions, they see top government officials discussing with opposition members, that will send a very strong message to their supporters that it is not necessarily that when somebody is in APC, he is an enemy. But now go to every community. When they want to arrest APC member, they will just go to the police and lie that he has abused the president. He has done this, he has done that. So now for you to have say in every police station, go there as a member of SLPP. The police will expeditiously allow you to do what you want, to incarcerate anybody. And in a country of law, in a country of democracy, everybody should feel convenient to cohabit. Everybody should feel convenient to cohabit.
So the police is only policing for the interest of the ruling class.
That is very clear. That is very clear. In fact, when I was arrested, the next day, the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs was on AYV saying that he instructed the police to arrest me. So meaning the police was no longer independent. Their actions were contingent on the advice of government officials, more so those who hold executive position in SLPP.
All right. Let me bring in Honorable Gevao to respond to all of these claims now.
Thank you, Samuel. I'll go back to the law. My colleague here has said that that bill, a special committee was set up, of which he was a member, to vet and critique the bill, and it was after that one that the bill was passed into law. He's correct. That shows how the parliament is. If a critical bill has come and the members of parliament have said this bill has to go through committee stage, there has to be a special committee set to critically look at this bill. I mean, this parliament headed by Dr. Abbas Bundu has always given us that leeway to actually do justice to that bill. I was the chairman of the legislative committee when the sexual offences bill came to parliament. I mean, then we had to ask all of the women around the country to come and give their input. People brought in position papers, and at the end of it all, we agreed on those things that they were against and those that they were in favor of, for us to arrive at a report which we eventually brought into the well of parliament, debated and passed. So I still hold the point that he was a member of the House that actually passed this bill. And if we go back to the Hansard, there is no voice of his saying that part had to be expunged. I will challenge him. And I will challenge every Sierra Leonean to go to parliament and check the Hansards. My brother is here. I like the way he's canvassing the democratic issues. Go to the Hansards and look at that particular debate and see what the opposition did. It was a unanimous bill. And it is this act that the police are using now. Okay? I mean, in Sierra Leone, I always say I am not a proponent of this Creole saying tit for tat. But Honorable Abdul Kabo should not be one of those actually coming on national television to say the police are clamping down on Sierra Leoneans because of dissenting views. I was an active politician and a legal practitioner when Sierra Leone People's Party supporters merely came to celebrate Independence Day with their Max Devuko, Hure Wutete. All of them were arrested, charged to the magistrate court. I was in court when the magistrate said all of them should stand up Why is the process was going on? There is a lawyer that I respect. I'm Lansana Duboya. He told that magistrate that this is wrong. In fact, he told them to go out. Lansana Duboya had just come from The Hague. He said trial has to be in public. Don't ask them to go out while these people are in court. So for you to come and say this government is clamping down on the opposition, no, that's not the truth. What is happening is, show me one Sierra Leonean that has gone on audio, for example, to abuse ex-president annexed by Nkrumah, even now that he's ex-president, that person has not been prosecuted. Show me one. No, if you show me such a record, if you show me such a record.
You didn't ask me that question.
No, I will ask you, if you show me such a record.
Up till now, you are referring to the president as Anyampi, and you are saying nobody
I
has
have
been.
not.
I'm referring to your political party.
I have not heard of that. I have not heard of that.
Then you must not have
and
been
when
in
these
Sierra
things
Leone.
happen, the law is there. For you to justify leaders being abused, to say they have to be thick-skinned, no, I wouldn't agree with you. No police officer, I repeat again, is acting outside the ambit of the law. What the opposition is doing, like they said in 2006, when they were about to count the election result between Solomon Berewa and Annexed Nkrumah, they said, if we don't win, we are going to render this state ungovernable. That is their object. If we allow all of you to be ranting at each and every decent Sierra Leonean, abusing them, okay, and no law officer brings you to
Don't capitalize on abuse.
Which type of governance, which type of country will we say we have? Now you are saying Sylvia Blyden. Have you asked yourself, what did Sylvia Blyden do?
Except you tell me.
There must have been an offense.
Except you tell me.
No, you go do your research. Why
There
was
is
Sylvia...
no offense. I can say
let me
it here
learn-
authoritatively.
Listen, I have been very civil today, because before now, when we come here, you and I usually interject. I've given you your space. Yes. You understand? I usually interject. Today I have really
I'm happy
given
you know that.
I've given you your space to argue.
So you need your space.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sylvia Blyden was charged under a law.
Which law?
She was charged under a law.
Which
In law, as
Which
a
law?
lawyer, when you go to court and somebody is charged under the wrong law, your first application is the charges are bad in law. You ask that the counts be thrown out. Okay? All of those people that you've mentioned that were charged, they were charged under a law.
Which law?
They were charged under a law. As I sit here, I will not tell you off the cuffs the laws that the police use to investigate them and charge them. When Charles Magai said, I can still remember, some of we will get Kamajodem. Not so. The police brought him to the CID. He spent 3 nights at the CID. His relative has to go plead with Annexed Nkrumah in Makeni for him to be released. Okay? The police used a law. There must have been a law that the police used. Laws are being made for the law enforcers to use. If Honorable Abdukabo, that is a lawmaker, comes to this medium to say the police should not be using the law to...
I didn't say so.
No, but that's what you're trying to say. They should abuse the president, and
didn't say
no
so.
law should be used in bringing Kemo Sise to book. You've not said the police have used the wrong law. You have said the police have used a law of which you are part and parcel in passing to bring Kemo Sise to book.
No, I didn't say
And that is just what the police does. Now you are talking about, my brother here was talking about selective justice. That is something that I wouldn't agree with. To be honest with you, I wouldn't agree, and I will not go for that. If there's any police officer that is doing selective justice, I will condemn it. I'll be one of the first person to condemn it, because we all need this democracy. When there is peace, we all enjoy it. When prices go down, it's for all of us. When it goes up, we all suffer. Okay. Now, show me one person, one APC person that has been to the police station, reported an SLPP supporter to say this person has abused me, or this person had offended me, or this person has committed this offense against me, and that person had not been investigated and charged to court. I have not heard of that. I will tell you something. I normally tell Sierra Leoneans that in my 19 years of legal practice, it is within these 4 years of my legal practice that I have seen the judiciary being as independent as expected. Before now, somewhere we'll be in court, there will be a sensitive matter going in court, we'll sit in court, somebody comes from State House, go right in court, go speak to the judge, okay, and that bail is refused. I will say, let me be on record, since President Julius Maada Bio took the reins of power. I mean, we have seen the judiciary performing.
Been redeemed.
Come again?
That's when the judiciary has been redeemed.
To the best of my knowledge. To the best of my knowledge. And we have instances. Somewhere, as Sierra Leoneans, we must be proud that somebody was charged for treason against a sitting government and a non-guilty verdict was returned. We must be proud that a colleague, Augustine Mara, took an action to court against the police, and the Supreme Court brought a verdict saying the action of the police was wrong. We must be proud that Dr. Kande Yomkela took an action to the Supreme Court on citizenship, and he won that action. We must be proud about some of these landmark judgments that this judiciary has handed down within these 4 years. We must be.
So it's actually a facade to honorable.
I will tell you,
the judiciary has been captured.
I will tell you, let today be my last day. I represented some faction of APC against APC. Some people were of the view that, oh, the sitting government is interfering. May today be my last day. No member of the executive mentioned a word about that matter to me.
This is not the first time we are swearing.
We are seeing, yes,
Honorable
we are seeing the beauty.
You've done that on BBC.
We are seeing the beauty of democracy. We see people that are deemed to be SLPP lawyers representing APC members in court. I mean, for me, that is how it should be. So when we come on public medium, yes, somebody has been charged to court that we are close to. But why was he charged? Do we support him? Are we going to be supporting people abusing judges who sit on matters? You don't even know how the matter is going to come to an end. You have not heard the verdict, and you go raining abuses on that judge, on the mother of that judge. What has Sierra Leone become of? And it's really eating me up somewhere. And there is another community. I must say this on public medium. The Lebanese community, they also has to be brought to book. Immorality has so eaten into the fabric of society that you see people now playing their family members, their colleagues, their tribesmates, the way God made them on social media. Social media. I mean, we have to stop. Some of us, we stand for morality. Some of us, we have children. We want to bring them up in a manner that they will say, yes. I mean, morality was injected into us. That's why I am in support of Dr. Idris Lahai exposing anybody that has a fake degree. Because if you take your son, send him to kindergarten, send him to primary school, in the bid for him to acquire education genuinely, and somebody sits in his comfort zone and pays $4,500 and becomes a doctor, what are you going to tell your son? To study? When he can just decide to be a cleaner somewhere, save all of his monies and go buy a PhD. So with all of this, morality has to actually be injected into this society.
With all of this, just quickly before bringing in our viewers and listeners into the conversation, Honorable Abdul Kabu mentioned that Parliament damaged democracy to a large extent in this country. When the judiciary made a decision and Parliament was so swift to respond and accepted that decision, they moved. Do you see the current Parliament as a problem in fixing Sierra Leone's democracy?
Samuel,
I like that question.
I always tell Sierra Leoneans that what is happening in Sierra Leone in Parliament is not new. And you see, when we set precedents, we have to always think about tomorrow. Honorable Afiju Kanja got 19,000 votes, and the APC candidate got 700 votes in Kenema. Honorable Kanja was prevented from taking his seat, and the APC candidate took Honorable Kanja's seat and served in that constituency for 5 good years, never visited that constituency. Honorable Ansu Lansana got 19,800 votes in Kailam. The APC candidate, Mr. McCarthy, no, it was not Mr. McCarthy, it was McCarthy who took the matter to court. And you see, that's why some of us, that's why we've been around the corridors of the court. When you talk about independence of judiciary, I'll tell you the judiciary is far, 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 far better off today than it used to be. Those days, honestly speaking, they had their judges, they had their lawyers. They take this case to a specific lawyer, a specific judge. The judge, how can you give a judgment that this person won the case but he lost the seat? That judgment is on record. We've seen that one. So now come to the members of parliament that were that were removed. Yes, petitions were filed. The judiciary went through the cases and then they handed down their judgment. What do you expect parliament to do? Be in contempt of court? There was a court order to say these members of parliament either did not win their seats properly or got involved in something inimical to the system that was set, and hence must not be allowed to take their seat. All parliament needs to do is to obey the order of court, or else the judge who handed down that order can ask for the speaker to be arrested on contempt of court. So parliament did not do anything. Whether this parliament is a problem to our democracy, one day, honestly speaking, even if I'm to make an audio for a book to be written on parliament, there will be a book influenced by me.
I'll wait for that day.
I am learning.
I won't force you now to say
I am learning. I believe our parliament can do better. Okay, I believe we can do better, particularly now that we have very young people in parliament. I believe we can commit ourselves better to lawmaking, to and to oversight.
All right, let me only
that's my view.
So you don't go beyond that.
Yeah, Samuel, let me just make some corrections. You see, Honorable Guevara is now in this argument to just using obscene languages or abusive languages. Yeah, I have given him instances in which opposition members have been arrested and they have not in any uncertain term used those obscene languages. Yeah, I am again against any form of obscene languages. Let me make that very clear. So you should not just narrow down is if he has said he has never had somebody using obscene languages against the former president. For Christ's sake, haven't you had just Austin Johnny? You understand? And let me
I don't know that.
In fact, let me even don't mention those lower cadre SLPP members. Even those in governance now, haven't you heard them calling APC Anyampi? Haven't you heard them calling APC terrorists?
I had never.
Okay,
to be honest with you, I had never.
Then finally, let me make the correction between Afiju Kanja and Ansu Lansana I mentioned. That is how they deceive the public with information. He is a lawyer. He knows the detail of the matter, but he has carefully escaped the detail of the matter and he has just presented a picture. What happened was, Ansu Lansana, Afiju Kanja were petitioned by SLPP members who also went for the symbol but did not get the symbol.
That is not correct.
You understand?
No, that is not correct.
Allow me.
No, when you are correcting, we don't have time. Ansu Lansana was petitioned by Makati, who, as I'm speaking, is APC.
Allow me. So Makati was never APC.
No, he was.
He was never APC.
Was.
Anyways, let me make my point. Let me make my point.
He was.
He knows the truth.
No, he was. And
Let me tell you, Afiju Kanja was petitioned by somebody who is SLPP. Ansu Lansana was petitioned by somebody who is SLPP. Let me tell you what happened. The cases were brought to court before the elections. The court ruled on the matter before the elections.
No, sir.
But listen me. The court ruled on the matter
why
before.
Did they contest?
Allow me. I'll tell you.
No, you are
if you are patient enough, you get it from me.
No.
Yes, the court ruled. Let me just laugh. He does not want the public to know what I want to say.
You're not.
He does not want the public to know what I'm.
No, you don't know what happened.
Sammy, let me tell you. The court ruled on the matter few days before the election. So it was incumbent on NEC to have removed the faces of both Ansu Lansana and Afiju Kanja on the ballot paper because the court found out that they did not resign in time. They were still collecting from the consolidated fund. You understand? So the court sent to NEC instructing them that these people are not to participate in the elections. What NEC did not do was to remove their face. So NEC left their face on the ballot papers and votes were cast. So that is what happened. So even though they were voted for, NEC said we have had, just as he said, that it would have been contempt of court if NEC had approved them to be the winners.
Let me
but NEC said we have had the court ruling that these people.
Let me just correct you in one sentence.
This is how you misinform the public.
There was not a ruling. The court did not rule on them.
There was a ruling. There was a ruling.
Let me educate you a little.
There was a ruling.
No, sir.
This is how you divert justice.
Listen. The court had injuncted. Listen, the court had injuncted.
They never went to Parliament. They never sat in Parliament. They were never deserted. They were never certified.
In Parliament.
Yes, they were never deserted. Nor were they certified.
Let us learn.
They never subscribed the oath of Parliament.
The NEC had printed the ballot papers. Okay, had distributed the ballot papers on the eve of the election. They said they have injuncted them. They had injuncted them. Their names should not contest. But their names were already on the ballot paper. That's the difference between an injunctive order and a final judgment of the court. So they went into the election. They voted for them. This got 19,800. This got 18,000. And the results were not announced. Okay? Now, months after the elections, I still know the judge who delivered that judgment. Judgment was delivered like Answer that he won the case, but he lost the seat.
It seems as if you don't know the judgment.
Okay.
The people he is referring to never went to Parliament.
So the people said all the wrong
they
precedents.
Never subscribed.
All the wrong
Gentlemen, let's bring in our viewers. Just quickly, I have to run through a few messages. Ibrahim Jokema is saying, democracy is the government of the people and by the people. That entails freedom of speech, association, but all those freedoms come with responsibility, and it is not absolute. You cannot call the president a killer without proof. You called it freedom of speech. Likewise, you cannot insult the president and call it freedom of speech. It's called public nuisance. Okay, that from Ibrahim Jakema. Cisalfa is saying, Samuel, our police force does not know their roles and responsibilities. Why? No, they don't know about human rights violations. It is only in Sierra Leone you hear the head of police saying they are there to serve the government of the day. Abdul Ekabo is saying the spate of arrest in recent times is worrying and threatening to our democracy. Pakaba and EBK allowed citizens to express themselves freely. Why is it different now? Malimami Contest is saying you repealed the libel laws and keep on arresting people for expressing their democratic rights. What an irony. Mike Yakoka is saying undemocratic tendencies are going on all over the world, even in the USA. Most of the states are passing laws to ensure minority rule. Mamadou is saying madman go Pademba assaulting the president, but the president called the opposition terrorists and IMPs thieves, criminals. Okay. In the democratic states also, the citizens owe it responsibility to abide by the Constitution of Sierra Leone. Freedom of speech does not mean making statements that threaten the security of the state. Every citizen in Sierra Leone has limits to his or her freedom of speech. It is not to do so absolutely. All right, I'm going to take at most 7 more messages. We have hundreds of them, but unfortunately, time will not permit me to go through all of them, please. People shouldn't just talk anyhow. Freedom of speech comes with responsibility. Sir, that's from Eddie Grant. Thomas Rogers is saying, I think one of the very disturbing things in our democracy is the issue of bail. In my opinion, bail should be granted in bailable offenses as long as they meet the requirement. Kemosise was power drunk. He's up to better. Okay, this is not so clear. Please, we need political unity. We need political parties to come together and fight our common enemies. Our enemies are poverty, poor road, poor economic management, poor electricity, poor healthcare. Politicians are busy fighting with each other, while our real enemies towards our progress as a country, it's everywhere. No one is talking about it. Let's focus on building our nation. No single political party will be able to build this nation without everyone's support. We need love, we need peace, we need ideas to build this nation. That's from Alhaji M. Barry. Alhaji Ibrahim Suri Kamara is saying, that is why you are busy. Okay. We're not going to take that. Come to Blacker. He was arrested as an accomplice. Laemara was arrested because of his comments on genocide in Rwanda. Put Sierra Leone as a case in point. While Sidi was arrested because of remarks he made on activating level 3, which is a military statement. Interesting, the messages here. American police kills peaceful civilians more than any other police in the world. Their police is ruthless. Have they stopped it? So sitting here praising America, giving records of a sovereign state is really funny to me. Ngoroji, 2 more to go. The same report says there were no reports of disappearances by or on behalf of government authorities. This is exactly what I am saying. The APC MP voted for the law that is now decrying.
I didn't vote for it. I didn't vote. I mean, it was a misinformation.
Hundreds of messages. Unfortunately, guys, time is not our best of friend here. The sad part of Sierra Leone has resurfaced again. Samuel Wise knows the fact. What facts? I'm only here asking questions so that the facts can come in. I need the facts to come out. That's why I'm asking questions. It has to be a referendum for any parliamentarian to be removed. SLPP thinks they are the owner of Sierra Leone. Jibril Doumbouya. Gevao, you told Sierra Leoneans to stood by you when you were suspended. You go ahead again saying Sierra Leone is hanging on a time bomb if we do not stand by you. And today you are defending Sierra Leone. He has no other country. I can remember during our days in the engineering class at MMC, and I always knew that Honorable Abdul would become a stubborn politician. And when I say stubborn, I mean it in a positive way. Okay, 2 more messages. John Njaya says, Honorable Gevao, you are under. Okay, I'm not going to go through that. I will have to hold the messages there now and allow Dr. Njai. I know. And the speaker has won.
Cast their shadows.
Honorable Dr. Njai.
The speaker has won. So I don't want to commit a crime.
That's right.
But I mean, these are the things. Even the audience, I mean, people who've sent in their messages, they are following the problem. And you sense this deep-seated polarization along political lines instead of us addressing the issues and building Sierra Leone as a nation. How do we take a path that will actually lead to a better democracy where every Sierra Leonean enjoys, I mean, his or her rights to the fullest without intimidation, harassment, but also understands that those rights come with responsibilities and the civic space is widening enough?
Yeah. You know, Franz Fanon, one writer that I really liked, one of the things he said, you know, when all these African countries were getting independence was that there's always the danger of African countries, including Sierra Leone, to disintegrate along these lines, either ethnic lines or regional lines or political lines. You know, and you know, if you look at our country since independence, since 1961, our biggest challenge has been how do we have a national agenda for this country? And when I see our 2 comrades here, 2 colleagues head on with the 2 parties, you know, it always brings me back to the same thing, that we've had a party agenda in the country in the last 61 years, minus the few years of military interventions. And I think what is really needed for our democracy is where every Sierra Leonean feels that they are part of it, that they feel in their heart, right? It has to be felt in your heart. It has to be felt and seen. Like people need to feel and see that they are part of this process, that they are happy being Sierra Leoneans. And when we have, and then the only thing, I said this during independence when I was here, I said, we need a national agenda. This you did this, I did this, you did this every 4 or 5 years, you this tit for tat, it's not going to take us anywhere.
Right.
We will come back, let's say 2023, APC comes back, we reverse again. We reverse everything. Then SLPP comes again, we continue, and then we continue on this track. What we need as a country, to me, is really building a national agenda that we all can agree on, regardless of party. And then we can now, just like contracts for a road or contracts for stuff, we can now say, okay, this party or this group provides us the best in terms of achieving this. And every time it's just about who provides the better roadmap.
Right.
So for instance, if we said, let's say 2018, we were on course for creating the Mamama Airport. Let's say we had a national agenda that says Mamama Airport was important for us in Sierra Leone, right? And that was a national thing that we all agreed on as a nation. Then regardless of who comes to power, whether that person decides to make a path from Lunge to go to Mamama, we'll get a Mamama Airport. That's what we need. We'll get that. That's part of the national discourse. And we need to be able to build that and create a Sierra Leone where people do not feel alienated because my party is not in power. And the other thing that we've done in Sierra Leone since independence is linking resource to politics. Sorry, ethnicity and resource has been linked with the politics, such that we say, if this party is in power, everything shifts to this region.
Right.
If this party is in power, everything shifts. So that has created this artificial polarization, such that now everybody is frantic that if I have to vote this party, that means that we will not get anything in this region. So it's created this artificial ethnic divide. And then the politicians, you know, like our brothers sitting here, also play into these things in a way that, because to me, it's more like a class. You know, Sierra Leoneans, if you go to the average, down to the communities and stuff, you go to Moyamba, you go to these places, you know, people are actually connected. We are connected. The degree of separation between us in Sierra Leone, you know, normally all over the world, if you go to a part of the world, it will be like 6 degrees of separation. You need more people. But if I tell you, if I begin to ask between me and Honorable Guevara or Honorable Cargo, it might be just one person. We all know one person in commonality. That's how Sierra Leone is. We are also connected to the point that I think we need to just work on elevating the civic education around governance, around aspect of national cohesion,
and do
and all
you think
that.
if we introduce that now, we'll be able to get it right, say in the next decade or two? I'm asking because I've always argued, for example, that no one political party will win a national election with just in support of its tribal kingsmen. So that's polarization we keep talking about is only being created by, by the very politicians, just so they're able to prey on the people. And the people are the biggest stakeholders in democracy. So how do we get them to understand that? Listen, you hold the biggest side of the cake, and so you have to understand how it should be shared. You
know, and I think this is where people, that space of educating that electorate, educating the population, going down. And when I'm talking about, in fact, like a show like this, we should be doing it in Creole, and beyond that, go to Mende, Timni, Fula, Madingo, all these things. Because it has to get down to the people. To the lowest echelon needs to know their rights, their responsibilities as citizens. That this is my right, that I have a right to demand this. That when I elect Honorable Cargo, Honorable Guevara, they are just lawmakers. They are not making me bridge. They are not making me grow. They are not making me hospital. This is not their job, right? That's not their job. Right. They are lawmakers. They are doing stuff there. They are representing you. These are things that needs to be cascaded down. That's why we've devolved, for instance, in Sierra Leone, we have councils, we have all those things. But there has to be that people need to learn that also in this situation, I'm the boss in some ways. We are the boss.
Right.
You know, we are the customers. They should serve us. You know, we give you all the incentives. We give you perks to represent us. But when you represent us, you should also be answerable to us. Bring back information to us. Like for instance, I see a country where Parliament doesn't just sit in Freetown. This Parliament should be rotated in all districts. So every district has an idea of what parliamentary representation involves, right? These are things that we need to begin to think out of the box of what, you know, and we need to bring government closer to the people. This is one thing we do in this country where we are doing one thing and the people are in another space, right? So we are in another space and people, go right now to communities, ask how many people even know about the cybercrime, about certain aspect of that thing, like, you know, like if I do this, I may be in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, there are elements where we have to bring the people along. You bring them along on everything you do. And I think also accessibility, being closer to your people, like having, you know, if you are a parliamentarian, having like units in your community where people can come and freely vent and complain and talk to you, having a presence, having a team. It's not just during campaign time you come. That people are aware. But it's important for government, especially when we're talking about freedom of speech today and freedom of assembly, that no government can do better if it's insulated. If you are too insulated around your people, around your comfort zone, around things that is sweet for your ears, it's never going to work for you. What's going to be important is getting that pulse of what is happening. You get the pulse of things, the opposition, who are telling what's happening, what's going on. Governments that are very, very successful, they always go to where the people are. It means that I have this initial idea, but then I test the pulse of the population and I realize the population is here. And I actually shift my position to here because of I now realize that where I am is far away from the people. So that's why the freedom of speech is important. And then, you know, getting different dissenting views with different people expressing, their thought processes. But again, all of this has to be done in a civic space, very civil space. This idea in Sierra Leone of insult, every time we start, and this is happening even at higher levels, even when and that's why, I'm very happy in a way of what we are now seeing with these revelations with education, because our educational system has gotten through a lot of decadence over the years, to the point that we've become a very lawless society, to a point where even intellectuals, as soon as you start talking, it's about insult.
Get personal.
Get personal. And this is happening at every level. But it doesn't have to. We have to discuss something, but target the issues.
Right.
And to me, we have a lot of issues in Sierra Leone that we can begin to discuss and target, and then work on those issues that are important. Because when I traveled very recently to Cote d'Ivoire, one thing I really observe about them, they've been to war just like us, they've gone through, they are just next door. But I saw limited police presence in some of their major intersections. And so I was asking my Ivorian colleague why. But when I looked at it among the way they move with traffic, everyone was obeying things. Right? And then now in Sierra Leone, it's like next thing, this Okada guy is passing this way, this Keke guy is trying to hit you on the right, this taxi guy is hitting here, and when you stop, they insult you again up in above that. So we have to, there is an issue, and a fundamental issue, and something that has gone terribly wrong with our country, and we need to, these major parties who are now controlling things in the country, you need to be part of that problem, solving that, finding solutions to this issue that is a national, pressing national issue. Because to me, this along with raising our level of education, level of civic space discussion, and then and trying to bring together holistic solutions to our problems is going to be an important thing for us moving forward.
All right.
Right? Because again, I would just say, if for instance, in the last 4 years, we've just had, everything we've had is, we've done this, you haven't done this. You've done this, and they, and of course that will also going to happen if there is a subsequent changeover. To me, what is definitely needed is we need an ideology, a holistic solution on things. If it is water now in Freetown, every day I'm spending time, we are going to take 5-gallon rubbers to go get water. Every community is struggling in Freetown. Guma Valley cannot provide us enough water. How do we, as a country, have an ideology around water systems? We are blessed with the highest amount of rain.
Right.
Countries like Senegal gets less than the 2 months of rain, right? And they have water self-sufficiency in the remote villages in the desert areas. Sierra Leone, on the other hand, in Freetown, this should be a mecca for water. What are we doing from a holistic point of view to trap water? Even the rain that's now causing us destruction.
How do we cultivate all of that?
Yes. The rain is the rain that causes us disaster now. I told the mayor of Freetown that we can all this runoff that comes to Freetown, every drop of this runoff, we harness it to pump water for the rest of the year for Freetown.
We can always have those conversations going. Let me quickly hear Honorable Abdul-Kabo. You are as a party and as members of parliament, you are very integral now within, the governance structure of the country. So how do we fix this problem where you feel, there is state capture of almost every democratic institution? How do we redeem them and let's ensure that Sierra Leoneans enjoy, the tenets of democracy?
Yeah, well, it's very difficult for these state institutions to be redeemed at this stage. But one thing I would say is that government should be worried that reports of such nature are coming against our government. I'm a Sierra Leonean. Anybody who wishes bad for this government or for Sierra Leone as a nation is not patriotic. So for the United States Department of State to be releasing human rights reports, and I read again, they say in Sierra Leone, unlawful or arbitrary killings by government, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment by government or on behalf of government, harsh and life-threatening prison, arbitrary arrest or detention. Those are very strong words that government should not treat with levity. Government should not just dismiss those words with the back of the hand. Government should try and make sure that they impress upon this international community that Sierra Leone's democracy has grown. And how would government do that? The crime committed by Kemosise, as alleged, is a bailable offense. It's a bailable offense. You understand? So why don't they bail the man? Especially when strong allegations are coming that, there are arbitrary arrest or detention. You understand? He said Sylvia Blyden committed a crime, but he did not tell me the crime Sylvia Blyden committed. You understand? But again, in a crime committed by person in which exhibit number 1 is the picture of the former president, shows the crime that she committed. She didn't commit any crime. You understand? So we should have that tolerance. Imagine the level of hate for the former president for his picture to become exhibit number 1. Sierra Leone is a small country. We should be able to love ourselves. We should be able to embrace ourselves. We should be able to see ourselves as we are politicians in the game of politics, just as footballers. You go Ronaldo and Messi, they talk to each other. They became friends in football. Why do we have to become enemies in politics? Why do we have to nurture such hate that our generations yet unborn will follow that trend? That is why I always disagree with my colleague member of parliament. When you always, hey, APC been do this last year, APC been do this 2 years back. We are young, and the future of this country is upon our shoulder. If we begin to follow the trend, and if any other government comes and follow the footstep of this current government, I'm afraid for our country. You know, this is the time we should look them to their face and tell them the truth.
Deep-rooted rancor, feud within the political space. And you mentioned the report from the U.S. Department of State, the 2021 State of Human Rights in Sierra Leone, for example, that government should not treat it with levity. Government should take it seriously. And you belong to the House, for example. I would want to say that supervises the executive. Because you do your oversight function, you monitor and track what they do, and you question them. What do you think should be done by that house to ensure that some of these things are looked into, some of these things are taken seriously by the executive, for example?
I told you that the role of parliament has been more of subjective than objective because of the composition of the current parliament. And you know what led to the composition of the current parliament. So the powers of the parliament has been reduced drastically. But again, I am using this opportunity to talk to governments. If I were in this government, I would advise that everybody who is arrested arbitrarily or is being detained as a result of political reason should be released. Because this report is damning. This report is worrisome. This report is troubling for a state, So to me, we should begin to see ourselves as brothers. We should begin to love ourselves. We should begin to embrace ourselves. That is how we send the trend to other people. But if I am currently I'm a member of parliament from the APC, if they see the relationship between Honorable Gevau and myself, it's very cordial, even outside there. Very, very cordial. We are brothers. He asks for my mother, he sends for my mother. Look at him seated here. That is the nature that we want this democracy to continue. That is the nature. So that is why we should try to make sure that we preach peace into the democracy. Don't see person supporting APC and you take that person to be an enemy. Do you want everybody to support SLPP? Is that possible? That is ever not possible. You have to cope up with those who are against SLPP. They will ever, since the Pope was an altar boy, there will ever be people who will be against SLPP. You have to be able to embrace them.
So political tolerance.
It should exist. It should exist. I wrote off this government when they imprisoned that madman. That was the time I wrote off this government.
So you think it's not possible again?
How could you? I wonder how the magistrate was, how statements were obtained from the madman. Practically, nobody with his 5 senses will detain a madman for whatever he may have said. The man is mad. He is mentally derailed. That shows the level of animosity that exists. It should be bridged. It should be bridged. This is a small nation. We cannot develop as a nation if we don't like ourselves. We cannot develop.
Okay.
You have Honorable Gevau has the history from Bible, what has happened in this country. So he is always going to refer to one instance to justify the current wrong, which is not good for us. We are young people. They say that go to get for tooth. We dirty. Not allowed to dirty before it tutor.
Okay.
You see, so we should try to cleanse the kind of hate in our democracy, because we have a long way to go.
Honorable Gevau, let me hear you.
Yes, I always tell my colleague, when you come on public medium like you want to read a report that make, a coherent sense, like the portion you've just read. The prefix and the suffix, if you had read it, maybe I would have been able to understand. But the portion you have read, the portion you have read, even my brother seated here, even yourself, inhuman treatment, arbitrary killing, the prefix sentence and the suffix sentences, you understand? If you had read that, it would have made some sense, whether it was a direct reference to this government or no, but that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense to me. That is one. Secondly, I will tell the people of Sierra Leone, we had been a very decent society.
Let us try and inject decency in our way of life again. Let us stop to adore people that engage in abusive language and obscene or raining obscene languages at decent people in society. I mean, it's not good for our children, it's not good for our political landscape, and it's not good for society as a whole. It's causing people who are living in Sierra Leone, who are non-Sierra Leoneans, to lose respect for us. And when we come on public medium and we don't condemn it, we support it, it bleeds my heart. Let me tell you something, Samuel. Somebody called me from abroad and told me, oh, that of my land that I had there, I had to tell this person that is expert in abusive languages. And that expert in abusive languages called that other person that is fighting me for my land, and they have backed off. So somebody that now rains abusive languages at people has now become a judge. I mean, he is now a court that people now make reference to, for him to call the other people, for them to back off. I mean, that is how bad Sierra Leone has become. And these people, they actually connect them to political parties. It is wrong. Before now, they used to tell us, when politicians tell you to go and abuse other people, don't hacking. When they tell you to go and fight for them, don't hacking. Those messages should be the right messages that we should be sending. Like my brother said, civic. When we were in primary school, we used to study civic. I mean, if we don't teach our children, it is wrong to abuse the president. It is wrong to abuse Honorable Abdul Kagbo. Then we are doing disservice to ourselves. I will tell him, I acknowledge the fact I am not making comparison because I am justifying. I'm just saying most of what they are saying, they had laid the foundation in everything that they are now crying about. You're talking about members of parliament being removed, a vice president being sacked, a sitting vice president being sacked. Who in West Africa had ever sacked his sitting vice president? You danced, you jumped. We tried to condemn. You were happy doing it. We have come, we have not done it, and we cannot do it. If we had gone, if this current president has sacked his sitting vice president, then you will say, oh, well, they are doing what we did to justify it. We have not done it. So we are trying to nurture our democracy so that we have a very decent space for all of us to live in. And I will say again, where my right stops is where Abdul Kagbo's right start. I have no right to abuse Abdul Kagbo because he is a parliamentarian or to abuse the president. Dr. Sylvia Blyden, I said, was charged under a law. I did not say she committed an offense. One is only said to have committed an offense when a judgment is handed down. Bail is the discretion of the magistrate. It is not a minister that sits as a magistrate. The law says bail is at the discretion of the magistrate. If the magistrate thinks you are a flight risk, or if he gives you bail, you are not going to come back, that magistrate is not going to admit you to bail. Yes, bail is if an offense can be bailable, but the magistrate would think, as far as his discretion is concerned, if he admits you to bail, the cause of justice will be perverted. So I am not holding a brief for the judiciary, but I will say this current judiciary has done more positive things in this country than any other judiciary under any other government that I had seen, as a young man. Right. So let us give institutions credit for what they do. If we cry down each and every institution, I come here, I cry parliament. Oh, the law that parliament passed that these people are now being charged under is a wrong law. I passed it. Oh, the police is not doing good. Oh, the judiciary is rotting. Then what type of country are we going to be? All right.
Thank you very much, Honorable Indolo Geval. Thank you very much, Honorable Abdul Kagbo. Thank you very much, Dr. Alhaji Njai. It's been a pleasure, and I do apologize for the absence of Lillian Wilberforce from the Peace Commission. She gave her consent to be here, but unfortunately she is not. We do apologize, we take responsibility. But this is where we end tonight's program. Thanks very much to our audience and those of you who sent in your messages, but we did not read all of them. We apologize, but we value your contributions. A repeat of the show comes up on Thursday, 10 p.m. Up next is our AYV Primetime News. Many thanks for watching and listening. The show has been AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Wise Bangura saying, have a great night.